Hello and welcome students to our latest class on tube lessons, and today we are going to learn about the proper uses of two conjunctions which are unless and until. These may sound very easy, however certain confusions do rise regarding the usage of unless and until. When we use unless and how we use unless and where we use until and how actually we can use until. First, let us deal with unless. Now we must remember that unless is a precondition. It's a sort of precondition. Unless is a precondition and it actually means except if. Unless actually means except if, or say if we do put it in a sentence, it may sound like if you do not do this, then this is going to happen. Except if this happens, this cannot be avoided. Something like that. Unless. So unless is a precondition, and we have to remember one thing, that we do not use the negative. We never use the negative immediately after unless. Why? Because unless, as I have already written, has an innate negative condition. Unless you do this, you are going to die. So we do not say that unless you do not do this, you are going to die. No, that makes no sense. So unless has an innate, within it, it has already got an innate negative condition. So let us move on to a few examples. Let us take the first example. Unless you work hard, you are not going to pass. That means, see, in place of this unless, we could have also written that if you do not work hard, you are not going to pass. Same thing, but the difference comes in why? Because if you do not, so had we used if here in place of unless, we would have had to use this not negative word after it. But because we have used unless, this is not followed by a negative word. However, we have to remember something, that if you start a sentence with unless, you have got to use this comma over here at the end of the clause. Always, unless you work hard, there in you have to put in this comma, and then you are going to write you are not going to pass. So unless you work hard, you are not going to pass means what? Except if you do not work hard, you are not going to pass. Let us take the next example. They are not going to respect you unless you love them. See, because we have used unless at the middle of the sentence, we are not using the comma over here, but again, they are not going to respect you unless you love them. Again, unless refers to what? Unless, if you do not love them. In place of unless, we could have also written if you do not love them, but if would have meant that we had to use that not after if. But because we have used unless, we simply write they are not going to respect you unless you love them. Let us take the next example. Unless you produce, we'll have to move on to the next page. Unless you produce your credentials, you will not be admitted. Again, see, look at this comma over here. So if you do not produce your credentials, you will not be admitted. We have begun the sentence with unless, and that is why we have given this comma over here, which is absolutely essential. Please do remember this. If you begin a sentence with unless, which is a precondition, negative precondition, we'll have to use this comma at the end of the clause. And now let us move on to until. Now until of course refers to time. When we have to say something regarding time, we use this word until, this conjunction until. And until of course refers to up to a particular time. We use until in regard to up to a particular time. When we have to say something like you have to do this until I come back, something like that. So up to a particular time we use when we want to refer to a particular time. In future, of course, in future, then only we use until. So let us take this example. Do not leave until I come. So actually what I mean is stay till I come. What I actually mean is stay till I come. Same thing. Do not leave until I come and stay till I come. Let us move on to another example. The patient will not be released until he recovers completely. That means what? The patient will have to stay at the hospital until he recovers completely. So up to a particular time, up to which time? Up to when he recovers completely. Until that time, he will not be released. So we can see that until again is working as a, of course it is working as a conjunction, implying some time in future up to that particular time when the patient recovers completely, and until that time he will not be released. Now there are certain sentences where we do use these conjunctions together, until and unless. Let us take the same sentence, almost the same sentence. The patient will not be released until and unless he comes round completely, that is. The patient will not be released, so he will have to stay at the hospital up to that particular time when he recovers completely. And then again, unless he recovers completely, that is a condition, a precondition, that unless he recovers completely, if he does not recover completely, he will not be released. So until and unless can also be used together in a sentence. Of course, they can be used together in a sentence. Let us take a final example. Say, your result will not be complete until and unless you submit your project. Again, your result will remain incomplete up to that particular time when you do produce your project. And again, there's a precondition that if you do not produce, if you do not submit your project, your result will remain incomplete. So again, we see that until refers to up to that particular time your result will remain incomplete, and your result will remain incomplete unless, that's the precondition, unless you do produce, you do submit your project. So this is how we do use until and unless separately or together in a sentence. And we do hope, students, that we have been able to be of some help to you regarding the usage of until and unless. And we sincerely look forward to meeting you soon on Tube Lessons. Thank you. For testing your understanding of this lesson and more videos, log on to www.tubelessons.net.